Welcome to Monologues by Hassie, where I'm going to be dropping unsolicited brain dumps from the depths of my grey matter. I'll talk about life, money, society, and self-development, plus whatever else lies up there, whilst hopefully not getting cancelled in the process. Mastery is a step function. Now, what do I mean by the word mastery? When I talk about mastery, I'm talking about mastering a skill or a group of skills required for you to succeed in a particular domain. Now, these domains could be everything from learning a musical instrument to speaking a language to learning how to program, all the way to running a business, be it a dental clinic or a grocery store. It really doesn't matter what you're trying to pursue. A lot of people, when they begin something new, they would like to master it. And I think if I asked anybody the question, would you like to master something in your life? The answer would be an overwhelming yes. But then when we look at the amount of people in our lives who've mastered something positive, you'll find very few people who have. And the reason for this is it's not particularly simple, and people become unmotivated and demotivated on their journey to mastery, and as a result, settle for being average or, in worse scenarios, mediocre. And the reason I think people become demotivated is they do not realize that mastery is a step function. So let's talk about what I mean by a step function. So when people are trying to learn a skill, and for this particular example, I'm going to use my personal experiences learning how to program and becoming a better programmer and software engineer, which I've been kind of focusing my career interests in that area for the last 2 to 3 years. And reflecting on it, I can see that every time I got to a level, it wasn't a gradual increase in my skill that, every time I got slightly better at something, there was an immediate reward. It was a step function in the sense that there wasn't a gradual improvement. It wasn't a curve. Whilst I was improving, you only get the dopamine hits and the rewards of reaching a level when you go up a step. So in terms of the rewards I was getting for the investments I was making, they would be very flat, and all of a sudden I would go up a step and I'd get to a new level where I'd have to stay on that step and put the effort in to get to the next level. And an example of this is when I first learned the Python programming language, I did one course online, and I learnt Python 2 at the time. And by doing that one course, it was just one course. After I finished it, it felt like I had reached a particular step on the journey to mastery. Then to get to the next step, to when I got confident enough to get a job as a data analyst, I was also doing courses in another language called SQL. And then I redid another Python course. And I realized this took significantly more effort than that first step. So if you imagine the distance between the first and the second step, I had to walk much further. It's not your standard staircase that you might see in your houses or in buildings around you, where the distance between every step is the same. What I noticed is that every time I went up a step, to get to the next step, I would have to walk further. And this makes a lot of sense, because every time I go up a level, and now I've moved away from Python, I've learnt something called C#. That's what I work in day to day. The amount of knowledge I realized that I need to learn around surrounding programming and software engineering there is such a high volume of work that I need to do to get to the next level. I need to learn about the cloud and AWS and architecting systems. There's a lot of work I need to do. And even then, you get to the level where you're aware of something, and then you need to build projects and samples of work. Not only so you can demonstrate it to other people so they can give you opportunities in the workplace to do this, but to demonstrate to yourself that you have understood and you can comprehend and you actually understand what it is that you've consumed in terms of knowledge. And every time I go up a level, I know that to get to the next level will require more effort than what I put in to get to the level that I was previously on. And that is fine. And I think once people understand this, and if they're happy to make that trade-off, and not everyone is necessarily going to be happy to make that trade-off, I think that's okay. Because that really shows that you have boundaries and you might have priorities in your life, and there might be other things you want to do. But if you would like to master something and improve something, be it the way you play a musical instrument or the way that your small business operates, then you need to realize that every time you feel like you've hit a new level in a video game and that you've done the enough quantity of right things enough times to manifest some sort of benefit, that the next time you go up, you are going to have to put in a different volume of effort in different areas to make that manifest. And really, this is about the law of diminishing returns, which states that the more you do something, the less you get out of it. If I look at my programming journey, it was very easy to go from somebody who didn't program to somebody who could do some basic data analysis using Python, to getting a data analytics job, to getting promoted to a software engineer. Every step I took has required more effort than the previous step. And where I think a lot of people become unmotivated on this journey is they get some initial preliminary success and they keep expecting it to be as easy as the previous steps they took. So when I look at that, I know it's ridiculous, because even though at the time it felt like I was doing a lot of work, when I got into data analytics, I was studying night school at something called TAFE. When I look back, I was putting in a lot of effort, and it was obviously I had to pay a cost in terms of my time and getting to night school. I had to drive 1 hour each way. And, so when I went to class, it would take 4 hours in the evenings, and then I had to do homework. I basically had somebody lay everything out for me. They laid a curriculum out for me and I followed it. And they provided deadlines, which meant I had to finish things. And I ended up getting a new job in data analytics midway through that process. And when I look back, I said, well, you're actually doing much more work now in your self-development than you did back then. And this is in the area of becoming a better programmer. And if I had the expectation that that work that I put to get my first job in the technology field was the same amount of effort that I would need to put in to get to the next level, get out of the entry level, that's a very unrealistic expectation of me to have. But what I do see around me is a lot of people take for granted that their early successes are the result of very small but very valuable things, and that to magnify their success and go to that next level, it's not a matter of, you do need to keep gradually working on something, but in terms of how much dopamine are you going to get from that, it's going to be very flat until you hit that next level. That really is what I mean by mastery is a step function. And so many people, especially young people who are very focused in the short term, lose track of that. And as a result, they jump from opportunity to opportunity and they keep changing skills and paths, and they never really make it anywhere because they fail to see that to master something and the dopamine that you get when you achieve something in your career or a hobby or a passion, that when you hit a particular level, that is merely a long and never-ending journey to mastery. And every time you get to a level, the next step is going to be further away. And what that step represents is the knowledge and effort and practice that you will have to put in to honing your craft and gradually improving. But the payoff is going to come all at once. And it's very easy for people to forget this. At the same time, I think there's a very valuable lesson in me realizing that my next level up in terms of my skill set is going to require potentially more effort than I've put into just getting where I am now. And the beauty of that is to not focus on the satisfaction of getting to that level. Because if I know it's going to be far away, then there is a very high risk of me becoming demotivated along that process if the only happiness and joy I get out of it is when I hit a new level and I get to go up the next step. Because that is fleeting. If you look at the graph, right? If you look at the steps, you will spend more time on the flat regions than you will ever going up a step, right? I want you to imagine if you were to draw a cross-section of a staircase, what would it look like? You'd spend more times on the threads than you would ever going up. And this is natural. So it's important to focus on the process of acquiring your skills, practicing those skills, talking to mentors, honing your craft over time. It's important to love the process rather than the result. And if you fall in love with the process, and it's not always going to be glamorous, it's not glamorous. Sometimes there are many days where I know I need to put in the work, but I'm just not feeling it, but I put it in anyway. And it just needs to be done. So it doesn't matter what you're out there pursuing. Just remember that mastery is a step function, and every step you take is probably, or every step you have to take is potentially going to be further away than the previous one. Of course, that's not a hard and fast rule, but that is an observation that I have noticed from not only my profession, but those in professions adjacent to mine and those friends who I've spoken to who are in completely different walks of life. And with that said, I wish all of you listening to this great success on all your endeavors. You've just made it through another episode of Monologues by Hassie. It brings me great pleasure to know that you made it to the end. To listen to more episodes, subscribe on your favorite podcast app or visit monologuesbyhassie.com. Thanks for swinging by.